Good morning, and welcome to the Louise Nevelson Gallery at the Art Authority Museum. Welcome also to the opening of our show, Louise Nevelson, Lost and Found Again. I'm Alan Oppenheimer. I'm the founding director of our familiar yet transcendent classic art museum. The museum is best toured on the Apple Vision Pro. However, today we're going to have to make do with a Macintosh and Zoom. Please hold all your questions, comments, and thoughts until the end. We're going to have a hopefully lively Q&A session at the end of this event. Thanks for joining us for this historic occasion. Today we take the wraps off a project that has been 50 years in the making. On this day, at this time in 1978, Louise Nevelson's grand sculpture, Skygate, New York, was dedicated at the World Trade Center. It overlooked the North Tower lobby for over 20 years until it was lost, along with so much else, on September 11th, 2001. We can't bring back most of what we lost on that sad day. But on the 40th anniversary of its dedication, of the dedication of Skygate, New York, we are proud and we are honored to be bringing back that very small but important part, Skygate, New York. Our museum and its underlying technologies, as amazing as they are, have just served as tools for bringing back that work. This day really belongs to the creators, the facilitators of that original work, and those who have preserved it for enough time that we are now able to bring it back, this small part of that past. Many, like Louise Nevelson herself, to which a lot of this day is dedicated, are no longer with us. But it is my great pleasure to introduce some of those who are. And we're going to start with the force behind most of this effort, and that's my co-host and Louise Nevelson's granddaughter, Maria. So Maria, thanks for everything you've done for this project, and please unmute yourself and go ahead and get started.
See, I don't know if you can see me. Oh, sorry. Okay, there we go. Well, thank you, Alan. And it's wonderful to share this rededication with everybody here today. And thank you for joining us. And I look back over the time when my grandmother was alive, and for 10 years, she kept saying, go downtown to see Skygate at the World Trade Center. And she was very proud of this particular sculpture. And I have to say, I never made it. And with regret, I recognize it was a missed chance to see one of her largest wooden wall sculptures. It was 32 feet wide and 17 feet high. It was huge. And it was made by hand. My legacy with the Louise Nevelson Foundation has brought me to Art Authority Museum and the incredible opportunity to bring this lost work back to life and in a new way. As a co-host, I'll be back. And next, Alan will introduce our other guest speakers.
Thank you so much, Maria. Getting to know Maria over the past couple of years has been one of the highlights of this project for me, and I look forward to working with her going forward. Okay, next up, I'd like to introduce Alan Reese. Okay, Alan is the Deputy Chief of Major Capital Projects at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which is the organization which owns and operates the World Trade Center. Alan was the last director of the department that ran the original World Trade Center and has worked at the Port Authority for 41 years now. And he's got some great memories of the Trade Center and the work. Alan, welcome, and please go ahead.
Thanks, Alan, and good morning and good afternoon to everybody, depending what time zone you're in. So, back in 1993, I was working at the World Trade Center as the supervising engineer, the person responsible for the elevators and keeping the electrical and other systems running. And we'd run up and down the escalator and go to events on the plaza, and you'd always see the Nevelson artwork out of the corner of your eye as you rode the escalator up to the mezzanine level. This dark skyline of New York City against the white Carrara marble walls of the World Trade Center back then. And it reminded me of the skyline when I used to fly the Eastern Airlines shuttle. Remember that airline that's no longer in business for years? From LaGuardia up to Boston, where I went to college in the early 70s. And it was just an abstract skyline. And it was something you just took for granted. Then as I was thinking about this, the 93 bombing occurred, and I was responsible for restoring the structural and the mechanical and plumbing and the other fire alarm systems and others, working with a great chief engineer of the Port Authority, Gene Fasulo. But one of the things that another person named Gus Presley was doing, and he was a manager of the Trade Center then, he had an army of 2,700 workers cleaning soot from every office with little 3M microfiber cloths and everything. But the Nevelson, along with other artwork, was special. And the insurance people had to bring in art conservators to work and clean all that grimy black soot from tires burning and the smoke off the sculpture. And I go by on my way up to the plaza and meetings, and I lived across the street for 6 months in the Millennium Hotel as we rebuilt the Trade Center. And I'd see these people with feather dusters dusting and working on the Nevelson and gently wiping it with this like 3M microfiber cloth, cleaning it. So it was some amazing piece, and you don't really realize what it takes to keep it clean. And after an event like that, till you see the scaffolding and then all these people working on it simultaneously so we could reopen the building within 2 months. But it was an amazing piece of artwork, and you don't really sense it until things are gone. And then you sense the absence of the artwork and the other treasures at the World Trade Center were gone. So I've sort of somehow survived that attack. I was downstairs, down the hall from where the truck was when it exploded, and I was there on 9/11. So I've dedicated myself to restoring the Trade Center site. That's what I did for 17 years. And now we're building a new Midtown bus terminal, but you really miss it. And it's really amazing, Alan, what you're doing by bringing things back to the collective history so generations can see what existed there. Okay. it's difficult. And I know you have Amy on from the Memorial Foundation. I work really hard and close with the Memorial Foundation, so the families had a place to visit where their loved ones were lost, but also on what the museum did downstairs, because we have to tell a story, as Amy will say, not only to the people like myself that were around, but I had summer interns this year working for me who were not born on 9/11 and really don't know the story except from some YouTube videos and what they heard. So myself and other staff that are still working for me and were there on that day in 1993 and in 9/11, we're the ones passing the torch to the future generation. So I thank you, Alan, for what you're doing.
Yes, and I thank you, and you're so right about 9/11 becoming a part of history, and that it's incumbent upon us who were there, and you in particular who were really there, but us who experienced it that day as well, to pass it on to future generations. And as you say, we will hear from Amy working on that in a second. For now, I'd like to introduce someone who actually worked at the World Trade Center even before Alan did. And there aren't many such people. But our next guest started there before Alan and was at the original 1978 dedication. We've spent a lot of time looking for such people. There aren't too many we're able to contact, but one, Karen Tobia, worked at the Port Authority as a secretary in the executive director's office for over 30 years. And she is now enjoying a well-deserved retirement. So welcome and thank you, Karen.
Okay. Yep. Okay, we're all right.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, here I am.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone. As Alan meant, thank you, Alan, for allowing me to be a part of this. It really means a lot. As Alan said, I started working with the Port Authority in 1972, and then we moved. We were uptown, and then we moved into the Trade Center in 73. So the Trade Center was always a work in progress. And the Port Authority had a program of acquiring artworks to put at all of our facilities. And I was kind of an art buff. When I was working with Peter Goldmark, who was the executive director at the time, and we had acquired the Nevelson Skygate. And the day of the dedication, I said, I would like to, go down there and just kind of like be a fly on the wall during the dedication. I thought it was very exciting, especially because the artist was there. We had artworks from all over, and I had never been to any of the dedications, but to know that Louise Nevelson was going to be there in person and to dedicate this piece was just very exciting for me, and I loved it. To me, Skygate was. It was New York. It was New York, and it was the Port Authority. It was the thing that welcomed you when you came off the plaza, and it just belonged there. It had a life of its own almost to me. It was always my favorite piece. at the Trade Center. It was like I said, it was a very exciting day for me. And I remember Peter Goldmark had gotten a book of Miss Nevelson's works called Dawns and Dusks. And I was so excited. He gave it to me. He actually gave it to me because it just meant so much to me. And I still have the book, as I mentioned to Alan. And listening to Alan Reese talk about the 93 bombing, which I was there for the bombing. And yes, everything was covered with soot, including us. But it was amazing how the Port Authority staff and all the contractors and everybody cleaned everything up, especially all the artworks. It's really amazing that this artwork could come back, although virtually. I think, as Alan said, Alan Reese said, it's really important. I think it's really important for people to know what was at the Trade Center. It was our home for all those years. I worked in it until September 11th. And it was a very, very tough day for all of us who worked there because it was our home. And to have every time we could get a little piece of it back, it does mean so much. And Alan is right. And a piece like that, it's just amazing that you could actually see that again. So, and I'm very excited also about this whole concept. As I said to Alan Oppenheimer in our discussions before this, I think it's really, really important as a learning tool. And I think this museum and this concept is just fantastic for future generations to learn about art all over the world. I mean, this is what the generation is now. Everything is virtual, and this is really an innovative way to do it. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. It's been very exciting, and good luck. And I'll answer any questions anyone has later on.
Great. Yeah, we're honored that you are part of this. So thank you so much for that. It's been great getting to know all of you a little bit, all the people who really contributed a lot more to this effort than we here have been able to, but we're happy to be able to do our part. Okay, so there are many of you who have worked at this, and there are many who have worked in particular to remember and memorialize what we lost on September 11th. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum, which Alan also mentioned, grew literally out of the ashes from September 11th. Amy Weinstein is the Senior Curator of Oral History and Vice President of Collections at the National September 11th Memorial and Museum. And she has been working on that critical history project for almost 25 years. Amy, it's our pleasure to welcome you.
Oh, thank you, Alan. And I think you all got a little taste just now of the work that I do by listening to Alan and Karen share some of their memories briefly of working in the building, either in the 70s and 80s or the 90s through 2001. Well, they are survivors, whether they were in the building that day or not there for some reason, either running late or were in the building often do talk about the art. I love the way Alan said he would see Skygate out of the corner of his eye, all the time, all the time. Sometimes you stop to look more closely. Sometimes it's just part of the environment. And I hear that from survivors I interview who walked down whether 20, 30, 60 flights of stairs, that when they got to the mezzanine, when they got to the lobby, when they saw some of the artwork that was familiar to them from that corner of the eye look, they knew they had gotten close to safety, to getting out of the building. I don't have a good memory of Skygate. I worked for a brief while in the South Tower, so my memory of the artwork in the lobby is of the Miro tapestry. Um, very brightly colored. I think it was wool and hemp, whereas the Nevelson, the blackened wood, the painted black wood, it would make sense that that was not found in the rubble. And I'm so glad that it is going to be available, that we can all, the world can see it again virtually. Um, I started to get a little teary when Maria said she never got to see her grandmother's work um, in the North Tower. But you can remedy that in two ways, or almost remedy that. I sometimes sit at the Louise Nevelson Plaza, just a few blocks away from the World Trade Center, and it's a very you almost wouldn't notice it was there until you stop to sit. You can sit and have your lunch, and you're surrounded by her artwork and really can get a nice feel for it. So it's almost like being in the World Trade Center. It's close by. The other thing I discovered, I tried to prepare for this a while ago for this talk. When the sculpture, when Skygate was dedicated, it got some press coverage. My default, and I think my Google search default is for the New York Times, but there's a beautiful photograph of your grandmother standing in front of the sculpture, and a little description that said the sculpture was her translation of the silhouette she perceived when looking at the night sky. And that silhouette of the sky is what many of us miss also. The silhouette with the twin towers. There was a hole in the skyline, there was a hole in our heart. It's people have tried to fill in that hole, whether with the amazing creative memorial, Tribute in Light, or there was a painting in the museum of the skyline of the view from the Office of Fiduciary Trust. The painting is titled Looking South, and it's the collective memory of the view from one particular office in the Trade Center. I thought I might mention some of the other artwork that was part of what Alan and Karen mentioned, some of the public art, which was outside rather than inside. And I think because they were outside and made of metal, the sphere, Koenig sphere, did survive, battered, bruised, but restored, carefully restored. And you can see that today if you cross over the West Side Highway at Liberty Street and come up the stairs to the Liberty Park. And I think so many people have a memory of there because there were benches and you could sit by the fountain. The ideogram is another sculpture. Maybe some of you remember that is considered one of the most photographed public works of art because it was situated between the two towers. It was shiny metal. I think it was stainless steel. I'm pretty sure it was stainless steel. It was part of so many fashion shoots and that sculpture was lost also, but the sculptor's family had preserved maquettes, and one of those maquettes is in the museum. The Calder bent propeller, that painted red metal stable, almost, and Alan will correct me if I have this wrong, was almost thrown out, but somebody happened to notice the artist signature, the C, looks like a copyright, and a piece of the Calder was saved. So art was very important. It was very inspiring, and I think not everybody knows there were artists in the Twin Towers. There was the World Views program sponsored by the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, where artists had the opportunity to use vacant space as their studio. They could look out, paint the view, or put blinders on, not look at the view, and do their creative process in their own way. There was one artist who was there that morning. He was an artist, so maybe didn't always follow the rules the way other people might. He stayed overnight at the towers, and we think he may have been asleep when the planes hit. So he did not live, but some of his sculpture survived because it was outside. It was in storage and on view elsewhere. His name was Michael Richards, and I encourage you to look at some of his work. And then I'll just add that in addition to the corporate tenants, the artistic tenants, some of them were there early that morning for meetings or on their way up, and you can hear some of their oral histories. Vanessa Lawrence had a very harrowing experience. She's living back in the UK now, but she is one of many survivors who I've had the privilege to talk with. So as Karen said, I'd be happy to answer any questions later. And thank you for having me.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much, Amy. Great stories, great insights there. I believe Alan Reese was instrumental in restoring the Koenig sphere as well. So maybe in the Q&A session, he can tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah, I'm just learning so much. Even today, I've talked with you guys before, but learning so much more right now. So thank you again for that. Speaking about the 9/11 memorial, we felt it more than appropriate that Maria give us some thoughts of hers from that poignant place, but we knew better than to try and do it live on Zoom. So what we've got here is we have some video we made from the 9/11 memorial. So I'm going to go ahead and fire that up here.
Hi, I'm Maria Nevelson, the founder and director of the Louise Nevelson Foundation, and we are here today at the 9/11 Museum, where there once stood the World Trade Center that held my grandmother's massive sculpture called Skygate, New York, from 1978. Look at all these names. You get chills. This is really, wow. We lost my grandmother's artwork, but the people are really... To stand here and think about what happened. And there was this large sculpture that I never saw, and I'm remorseful that I never listened to my grandmother. She said, go down to the World Trade Center and go see my Skygate, New York. And then it's gone. And I'm excited about the Art Authority Museum program, so I can see it again. But standing here with these names along this water sculpture is very impactful to recognize the destruction, the loss of life, the loss of culture, the loss of so much with a very very challenging act for all of us that we've never gotten over. But now through this digital technology, like Art Authority Museum's application for Apple Vision Pro, we're now going to experience the artwork in a different way. I'm looking forward to experiencing it. I think it's great in this case of my grandmother's artwork that was totally obliterated and destroyed in the 9/11 bombings and destruction of the buildings. So my grandmother said to me and to everybody and the interviewers, she said that she knew as a young girl or as a child that she was an artist. And that was her blueprint for life. I believe that was her saying, I'm not married to art. She identified with art, and that was her union. That was her totality, her whole harmonious experience with not a man, but art. We see the World Trade Center piece, Skygate, New York, part of that very productive, focused, artistic woman at work.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was great piece. And thank you again, Alan, Karen, Amy, and the many others who have really helped get us to this moment that we're at right now. So, without further ado, I'd like to take the wraps off the new Skygate, New York, and show you a bit of that and the whole exhibit that we've got here and beyond. Yes, applause. There it is. You can sort of see it over there. But now we are going to spend some time really examining this. Again, if you had a Vision Pro, if you have a Vision Pro, when you tour this thing, you're going to be in front of it. You're going to feel completely like you're in front of it. But for the time being, we are going to have to use our app on the Macintosh here. So let me go ahead and get that started. And we will take you right up close and personal. Welcome to the Louise Nevelson Gallery, the whole thing, and our exhibit, Lost and Found Again. So we do want to start with the piece you just saw unveiled. So I'm going to take us over to that to start with. And here it is, full size. It's one of the great things about our museum. Everything is the real size. So if you get real close to this thing, and you can get closer than you could in the World Trade Center, because in the Trade Center, it was huge and it was overlooking this big lobby, right? And it's huge, but here, you know, if you want to, you can get so close. I keep thinking I can actually touch this thing, okay? When you have the Vision Pro on, your brain goes, I can touch it. Okay, and over Zoom, it pales in comparison, but again, it's the best we can do. So this is it. You can look way up, and this is what it looks like. You're staring up at the ceiling, right? But you're really close, and this monumental, enormous work is also incredibly intimate. With these pieces that, again, it's hard to see over Zoom. I wish I could send you guys all a Vision Pro and we could have had this whole thing, and you could have been literally in front of it to the extent possible. But this is amazing, right? Just look at all this intricacy. Look at all these pieces, and our exhibit, Lost and Found Again. Right, these pieces, Louise and Maria can tell us way better. She found these, on the streets of New York, among other places. So, this is New York through and through, and this is Louise Nevelson through and through. So, and this is just one piece of it. So, but this is magic, right? This is magic. So, in the 1978 dedication of this piece, Skygate, New York, at the ceremony, Kitty Carlisle Hart of the New York State Council of the Arts quoted the author John Updike, and he said, "The artist brings something into the world that didn't exist before." In our case, today, we are happy to be able to bring back something that did. We have brought back something that existed before. And that's magic, right? So, I want to continue by showing you next how we did this real quick, how we did this magic. So I'm gonna stop sharing that, and I'm gonna try and find some magic to share with you. And of course, the magic of Zoom never quite behaves exactly the way you want it to. Okay, hopefully you were paying attention. You caught all that. I hope you didn't blink. It did take us a little longer than shown in that video. Actually, quite a lot longer. But even more amazing than the months we spent on this painstaking, meticulous reconstruction is the fact that Louise Nevelson physically did all of that, and she was in her 70s when she did it. And she didn't have any apps, no apps to help her out. So it's just hard to believe. But it happened, and we're again honored to be able to help in the remembrance and bringing this work back. But it's actually about more than just bringing this work back. Okay, this work is a centerpiece. Again, this work is the centerpiece of a bigger effort that Maria is spearheading to bring back and make much more accessible her grandmother's art. So I'm going to give it back to Maria to talk talk more about that really, really important effort of which this is a centerpiece. So Maria, if you could go ahead and unmute and let us know what you think about those plans.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alan, and thank you for Amy for your oral histories, because my foundation takes oral histories also, and they're incredibly important in understanding the context of the work and getting insights of the artist, or in your case, who saw it. It's all extremely valuable information for the future. So I'm glad you're doing it. And Karen, your story is great, and Alan, yours too. It all feeds into this. Another part of the foundation is that we facilitate others who are trying to do helpful things to help my grandmother's legacy. And Alan and I came together over this particular project, which is totally about the future. We know it's coming. And I would say my grandmother talked about technology when she was alive. She didn't understand that it would come this far. So, and what Alan's doing is bringing technology to my grandmother's artwork and carrying it further into the future. But I also wanted to point out, and today, that one of the situations with museums is, for instance, my grandmother's in 250 art museums around the world, and most of them do not have the exhibition space to show the artwork that they have, but they love it. And so they've been keeping it for years. Well, this technology and this application with Art Authority allows those works to be seen virtually. It means they reach a larger audience beyond their geographic location, and it really fulfills their mission of educating the public. So it's fortunate for all of us on many fronts, but I personally am just, honored and thrilled when I'm pulled into these kinds of projects where there's a future, and a really interesting future. And I just want to say that I feel Alan and I are significantly contributing to my grandmother's legacy. And we invite everyone to enjoy Skygate New York once again. And I, like everybody, are available for questions in the Q&A. Thank you.
Great. Thanks again, Maria. And we will get to Q&A in just a second. I know this is running a bit long. I do want to quickly show you around the show and the museum, and then we will get right on to the Q&A, where I think there's going to be all sorts of interesting Q's and A's. So let me go ahead and try and get that to work. Okay, so here is the Louise Nevelson Gallery, and the show opening today is Lost and Found Again. Louise Nevelson, Lost and Found Again. And as Maria was mentioning, we are now starting to make works available in addition to Skygate New York that have been otherwise unavailable. Our galleries in the Art Authority Museum are, as I've said before, familiar and transcendent. So familiar, for instance, they're arranged chronologically. We've got a little plaque over here talking about Louise Nevelson, and then we've just got some of her very early paintings, and then this particular sculpture, we're making this way more accessible. It's actually it's at MoMA. It's called Sky Cathedral, and you can actually go up to MoMA and view it. It is on display, but of course now you should go to MoMA, because that's where you're going to see the real thing, as much as we can reproduce it here. But we can also get even closer than they're going to let you get at MoMA, and really spend some time examining this particular piece in 3D, right? Again, on Zoom, not so much, but in 3D, anytime you want, from anywhere. We then have various installation views of a number of Louise's sculptures, her different experimental paintings. And then we have this. This is a work called Black Cord, and it is literally sitting in a warehouse on the Hudson River, just outside the Hudson River. It's not in the river. It's a Whitney Museum warehouse, and we worked with the Whitney to send some people to the warehouse and scan this work. Okay, so it is essentially lost, and it is now found again. And this is what the effort's about: is to go ultimately around the world, working with museums and scanning in otherwise inaccessible Nevelson works, and letting people now not just see, but of course experience those works. And we continue around, of course, chronologically, some more installation views that ultimately we hope to scan. And then we end up, of course, getting around back to our favorite work, and certainly one of the most important in history when it comes down to it, Skygate, New York. So real quick, I do want to take you to, for instance, our museum's lobby. This is the lobby. Again, familiar and transcendent. Familiar, you know, it's got plaques, it's got a directory, it's got framed works of art. Transcendent, what museum lobby has all these works of art at the same time, right? Where else do you get to see the Birth of Venus, the Last Supper, the Arnolfini wedding, you know, all, again, in 3D, I mean, with real frames, real appearing virtual frames, real size, right? Look at the Mona Lisa, right? You know, look how small it is. It's the first thing I noticed after standing in line for 15 minutes with a whole bunch of crowds, it's like, it's a little small, isn't it? Our museum, you get this experience, yes, it is small, but you don't have to stand in front of crowds. And if you really want to, you can actually get up close and personal with it. So familiar, yet transcendent. And, you know, and that's sort of what it's all about for our museum. We have all sorts of magic. You know, hey, I love the Mona Lisa. Take me to a room of artwork that's just like the Mona Lisa. Okay, this is an AI feature called Art Like This. Art Like This. Okay, how many museums can you snap your fingers and go into a room of art that's all the same? Or not the same, but is similar. So, and we got way more. I wish I had more time, but I really want to get to the questions and answers in the chat. We're going to put a lot of details about both the Louise Nevelson Foundation and about our museum. We really hope that you'll be able to support our museum through memberships. We're a familiar museum. We need money, and we get a lot of it through memberships. So the app itself, please download the app in the App Store. It's available not just for Vision Pro. We highly recommend Vision Pro. If you haven't experienced Vision Pro, go into an Apple store, experience it, and then check out our app. So you know, please do all that, and then download the free app. A lot of what you're seeing here is free, including this exhibition. But membership gives you access to over 100 rooms for many artists, and also gives you the magic art like this, and something called spatial scenes, an amazing Apple technology that lets you lean in to a painting, and now you're in the scene. You're in the scene. Vision Pro for that. But if you don't have a Vision Pro, Macintosh, iPad, and even amazingly enough, this little iPhone. You can experience our museum. So that wraps up the formal part of our historic rededication event. I again want to thank Maria, without whom none of this would have been possible. I want to thank our speakers. You guys are great. I look forward to hearing more from you in a sec in the Q&A. I want to thank Apple, without whom our entire museum would not have been possible, and people working behind the scenes at this event. Zoom is a challenge, and it takes a lot of people to run it. So thank you to our great support team, and people. Thank you to the people at the Art Authority Museum. We have Classic Museum. We have curators. We have interns. We have Transcendent Museum. We have engineers and 3D designers. So thank you to all those, and of course to everyone who has worked to preserve and remember the bigger history here, of which we are so honored to be able to have brought back a very, very small part. Thank you all very much. And please now, everyone go ahead and turn on your cameras. We sort of prevented that for a while, but turn on your cameras, raise your hands, use the chat. We want to hear from you guys. What did you think? What questions? What should we be working on? Hopefully I'll see you and call on you, and if not, yell, scream, unmute yourself if you need to. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's put a gallery view of everybody here, and it's great to see so many people who have attended this event. So again, please go ahead and turn your cameras on, raise your hands, use the chat, and hopefully we can answer your questions. I'm looking around. A lot of people don't have their cameras on. It's fine. Let me see. Do we have something in the?
I think I got some chat, Alan.
Okay, yeah, let's
some
check.
chat questions.
Right, let us check and see what we've got in the chat here. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here. Okay, is there any plan? Oops, and now it's scrolling on me. Welcome to Zoom. We've got a question about, is there any plan to make this operable via Microsoft Windows? We definitely are looking at different platforms, and maybe just a website that has some part of it. We're looking at other headsets, potentially other VR headsets. We're building two things at the same time. We're building this incredible piece of software, this app, right? And we're building a whole darn museum, right? So we don't have to physically build it. That saves us incredible amounts of time, money, and effort. But the engineering to build an app is still pretty significant. So definitely more platforms in the future. We've definitely heard that loud and clear. We're hoping, of course, Apple will be bringing down the cost of the Vision Pro. It's a little expensive. It's an amazing product. Okay, but it is a bit heavy and a bit expensive still. So okay, let's see what else we got here. I'd like to follow up and ask you to elaborate on the importance of the artwork at the World Trade Center for those working in it. So that, I think, Amy and Alan and Karen talked to that very well. But Alan, if you have a couple minutes to tell us a little bit more in your restoration of that sphere, it would be great to hear about as well.
All right, so I've got a few minutes till the 1 o'clock meeting. Yeah, so artwork is really important, okay? And the families, for a period of time, some of the families at least, because there's no unanimity among the 9/11 families, were pushing the Memorial Foundation that Amy Weinstein works for to bring back the sphere to the plaza. But the plaza is really about the two pools and not about artifacts from that day. So the sphere, which was recovered, was sitting down at Battery Park, and we were trying to find a spot that the Port Authority controlled at the site. And once we finished building Liberty Park, which is at the south end, and that sphere is not a lightweight little structure, we tasked some of our construction folks to go figure out how to bring it back and where to place it. So placing it is pretty critical without having to rip it all open, the ceiling, and put additional reinforcing. So you got to place it just right over columns so the weight's carried down to bedrock. So one night, that's what we did. We picked it up with a crane, put it on a flatbed, drove it to the site, and it's now sitting in Liberty Park, where a lot of people, when the weather's nice, go out and have lunch and sit outside and get away from the office. But artwork is important, and after we built the site, we turned it over to a department, the facility, World Trade Department, that runs it, and they have put artwork back on I'll say the Oculus Plaza, which has been a tremendous attraction for the public. And they had abstract animals like an elephant and other stuff, and you could see all the tourists sitting on them and taking pictures. And I have access to the closed circuit TV system at the site, so I can watch what's going on, if I want to, 24 hours a day. And we just put in some new artwork. It's sort of like you get 1 year and then we replace and revolve the artwork. They put in some new artwork from an artist called Whimsy, and it's like, here's like a little uh, animated cartoon character with a corrections department pictogram in front of him, like he was arrested and put there. So we do artwork, and we do put artwork exhibitions in the center of the Oculus for periods of time. So it's not just boring white marble stonework and sidewalks. Art enlivens the place and also is part of the entire experience, because what we what we're afraid of, I guess after 9/11, is that the site might become like Gettysburg. And there's a lot of discussion with Daniel Liebskin, who was the master planner and the Port Authority and Lower Manhattan Cultural Council and the Lower Manhattan Development Commission and the governors, about needing to bring life back to Lower Manhattan after the attacks. And I think what the architects and engineers came up with, we were successful. A lot of people visit the memorial every day. You see people walking from all corners of the world down Liberty Street, because the campus itself is sort of a closed site. You can't just drive onto it, given the security threats. And you see them walking to the memorial, and you see them walking around Lower Manhattan. And I think artwork, whether it's at the World Trade Center site or there's a interesting sculpture across from the building I'm in at One Liberty, across the street on Broadway and Liberty, in front of a Helmsley building there. Artwork is important.
Al, excuse me, when my grandmother did this piece in 1978, New York was really focused on bringing artwork into the public view all around the city. So you're right. It's the fabric of the life in a city. My grandmother's piece, Plaza, Louise Nevelson Plaza, it was just the year before your piece, outdoor as well. Excuse me, is in now residential area because the office buildings were turned into homes, and that's integral to those people's lives that live around it, that they go and sit there and utilize it. Um, and I can say when I was being filmed at 9/11 Memorial, there was some wonderful places just to sit and be reflective, because when I saw the names, and I can still get teary-eyed. I mean, it's a shock to my system forever and ever, like so many people. You need a place to go sit and kind of hear the water running and just to, reflect and kind of regroup. And you've offered that in that whole design there. So, but it was mobbed. It was mobbed that day, so you're well attended. I could see what's going on. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Alan. I know you have business to attend to beyond this, so we really appreciate your being here and your great insights. I'm going to move on to another question. Can you talk a little bit about the scanning process for sculptures versus paintings, and and how you recreated Skygate in particular? So paintings are easy. They're essentially, not entirely, but essentially two-dimensional. If you've got to scan a Van Gogh with the brush strokes, it gets a little more difficult, but they're essentially two-dimensional, versus sculptures are, of course, three-dimensional, and sometimes even 360 around. So, but again, through technology, we are now able to take literally an iPhone, go around the work of art, and the software creates what you saw today in Zoom, sort of in two dimensions, but what we would experience in three dimensions. Now, of course, we cannot do this with Skygate. Skygate, New York, right, was destroyed. There are no 3D scans made of it that we're aware of. Back in then, 3D scan would have required a massive amount of technology. But we did have photographs. So, including a couple of Louise actually working on the sculpture. And so we were able, a 3D designer does magic, right? I mean, he was able to take all these photographs where depth is questionable and painstakingly reconstruct every single doodad in there. So, and it's not going to be a 100% reproduction. There's just not enough data there. But it's going to be 99.8% what was there. And we'll still tune it, right? That's a nice thing about our museum. You know, if it's imperfect, we can perfect it. And some artists do go back and tune their works, but it's pretty rare in the physical domain. Yep.
Oh, they're yelling at you? Don't yell at her. She's a very sensitive person.
I think we got some interference on there, but it's par for the course. Okay, other questions? Let's see. What else do we got? Pipe up. Pipe up if you know of a question. Just if you know someone asking a question. I'm trying to read all this, but
Well, Karen's asking if the work was made specifically for the Trade Center, and it was. It was made specifically for the World Trade Center. It wasn't one that was just made elsewhere and moved in. So,
yeah,
Do you know if the Port Authority commissioned her to do that?
I believe the Port Authority commissioned her to do it.
Okay.
And it's a Port Authority work still. I don't know what their collection is. Technically, what's still considered part of their collection, but that it was part of their group.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like more information on that, just because the foundation and I do provenance research and trying to track a lot of the behind the scenes information on all these artworks for future use. So
I mean, I know that we had someone named Saul Winograd. He headed up a lot of the art program, and so that background, I wasn't sure if it was something that he saw and wanted it for the Trade Center, or if it was just specifically commissioned, which makes it even more special. I mean, it really does make it even more, to me, makes it even more special.
Well, me too, especially because New York loved my grandmother. My grandmother loved New York, so she had a lot of opportunity throughout New York to put artwork either in museums, private homes, but also out in public for everybody. I mean, So she was extremely busy those couple of years when she did this one. And she was one of your famous artists, one of the
Yes,
New York
she is.
icon. So I could see why they would gravitate towards her. And far as oral histories, we just lost last week Joyce Pomeroy Schwartz, who was a public art curator there in New York and worked with Pace Gallery and the Port Authority on this particular piece. And there's letters in my file that, she is administrating the commission. And but she just passed away last week. So, but anyway, so there's
That's why
lots.
it's important to have this accessible, have all these artworks accessible, and as much of the history, of them.
Yes, because you can see how important in history artwork was. We kind of getting back to what Alan was bringing out before, that, it's not just suddenly, oh yeah, we really care about it. It's been cared about for a long time to have as part of the city and to keep what you have and to maintain it. And of course, the expense of maintaining and conserving does come along with the process, but there are many pieces besides my grandmother's that are, really important to keep for
Yeah.
because they teach us, some of them are historical monuments we know about. So anyway, it's all good.
There's a great book that the Port Authority put out a long time ago. Hopefully you can see it, called Art for the Public. I think that's the Calder that was referred to previously. And so a lot of the destroyed art is in this book. And, as I said, we're just getting started. We would love to work with, for instance, the Calder Foundation to bring that back, or Moreau. We do some work with the Moreau Foundation already to bring back that tapestry. Again, not entirely, but 95, 98%. So there's also a question in the chat about how other galleries, museums, curators, and artists can work with us, with the Art Authority Museum, with this project. And we would love to do that. The chat, again, has my personal contact information. If you go to our museum, you will see we already have special galleries for museums such as the Brooklyn Museum, the San Diego Museum, the Phillips in DC. We're already working with them to highlight, again, in full 3D, some of their works of art, and then, of course, get people in their doors through that. So, museums, artists wanting their own galleries, maybe not in our museum, but any artist can have a gallery app at this point, and we work with you on that. So this is really just the start. The room I showed you, the Louise Nevelson Gallery, that's going to be growing and growing, right? What other museum can just say, yeah, put another 20-foot sculpture in the, yeah, just put another one, yeah, let's have 100, right? Without a huge grant from, somewhere in 5 years worth of construction. So, familiar, transcendent, right? It's the best of both worlds in many ways. So I apologize if we're missing any other questions. If I missed something in the chat, which I may have, you still got a chance to raise your hand if I'm missing you. But I know this has gone on for a really long time. But it's a really long time, like 50 years. But thanks for sticking with this. I think most of you probably have my personal email also in your email, in the invitation. It's in there as well, along with Maria's. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And that's it. Thank you. Details are in the
Thank you.
back.
Thank you for the opportunity, Alan. Thank you very much for the opportunity to relive some of the Trade Center.
Yeah, it's
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah,
Important
means a
information.
lot.
Yeah,
It really means a lot. Does.
thank you.
means a lot to us too. Thank you. Have a great day, and please do keep in touch.
Yes. Happy holidays, everyone.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.